Thank you, Mr. Jayar. This is a very important question because, we'll need to clear some doubts here in this panel. So before I begin, I just want to give you some figures so that we are aware what we are talking about. So basically, India exports around $10 billion of plastics annually, but its global share is just 1%. And China's exports are 10 times more than what India exports, or I think even more than 10 times. And India does not rank in the top 15 plastic exporting countries. And exports of smaller countries like Malaysia is more than that of India. So, as regards your question, it is true that the polymer prices and labor costs in India are low as compared to the Western countries. But then the question is that why India is not exporting, why we are not in the top export charts. So the factual situation is that apart from labor cost, all other costs are high in India. And if we talk about a typical export product, say 60% is the polymer cost and 40% is the other cost, which could include the labor, power, and logistics. So let's discuss each of the costs one by one. And if we talk about electric supply, the electric supply quality is not good in India for the industry. We have interruptions and fluctuations, and the cost is also not low because there is a cross subsidy charged on the power to the industry. If we talk about logistic costs, again, because we are dependent on the road infrastructure, our costs are high. Although there is a lot of growth in the infrastructure coming off a road, but it's going to take time till the costs stabilize. Now, if we talk about the labor cost, so we have to see what effect the cheap labor cost has on the export product. And can we actually get cheap labor to run our machines? So in my opinion, the trained industrial labor is available only near large cities or near industrial areas. But at that place, the land cost is very high, and which is a problem for the MSME industry. It may not be a problem for the large scale units, but for the MSME, expensive land is a issue because they have a limited budget and they have to keep starting their unit in a limited amount of finances. And in a backward area, if a MSME wants to set up his unit, he faces the problem of infrastructure. There is not proper infrastructure so that he can export his goods there. He is unable to retain trained manpower in the backward areas. They all like to move to the larger cities and industrial areas. As we have seen in the pandemic, like we talk about migration right now, we have seen that all the labor in the industrial areas and large towns, they have migrated back to villages. So nobody wants to stay in the villages. They all want to work and earn money in the larger towns. So basically, a MSME unit who wants to tap the export market, he has to set up his unit near the industrial areas or near the major cities, and he has to pay for expensive land. And the cost of finance in India is so high that any benefit which India could derive out of cheap labor gets negated by the high finance cost. So basically, cheap labor is not helping India in the present situation, but definitely availability of abundant manpower will help India in the near future for sure. We will not have a dearth of labor, but cheap labor is not helping right now. Now let's talk about the polymer cost. Like you said that India's polymer cost is lower as compared to Western countries. I agree. But are we lower as compared to China or the Northeast Asian countries? No, we are not. At least in the polymers, I know because I'm also in this business that we are at least 15 to 20% higher as compared to prices prevailing in China and the other Asian countries. And the main reason for that is that India is a large importer of polymers, and the Western countries know that. And they are offering at least 10 to 15% higher prices to India than what they can offer to China, because they know that India has no other option than to import polymers. So in case a MSME wants to export his product, he has to compete with the price which has been quoted by a Chinese or a Vietnamese or a Malaysian plastic processor. His raw material would not be compared with a manufacturer who is based out of Europe or US. So the polymer cost, even though it is lower than Europe or US, it doesn't help him because he has to fight with the exporters from China and Northeast, and that doesn't help. So as you know, India will be having more polymer petrochemical complexes and higher polymer production. The polymer cost could come down because we will not be import dependent, and that could help. So that is the reason that India is importing finished goods also worth $5 billion. We import polymers worth $10 billion and finished plastic goods worth $5 billion, because the plastic goods abroad are cheaper. You know, what we get in from China or Vietnam, they are cheaper than what an Indian producer can produce. So these issues are there, and but I'm quite confident that, you know, we will be having a good export growth. Already this year, PLEXCONCIL has set a target of a 20% increase over 2019 levels. And we feel that government is supporting a lot to the industry, and the exports will also keep on increasing. So I'm very hopeful for the future, but presently this is the situation. Thank you.